A great day to live the run.
You're listening.
Having all kinds of troubles getting this thing started today. National Running Day. I'm your host, Rex Stevens, along with producer Max Woodcock, who's helping getting this mess going. And, of course, former Olympian Paul Terek.
How's it going today, man? A little rough on the start, huh?
Rough start, but, on National Running Day, I don't know if you knew that, Paul, June 6th, 2012, National Running Day. Have you gotten your run in today?
I veered a little off course. I didn't run. I actually, with the goading of a fellow coworker, I was talked into purchasing some inline skates and beginning to start training for some roller hockey. So going back to my Michigan roots, I'm going to start trying to play some roller hockey, and I'm probably sure I'll be in to see you soon enough. Not as a co-host, but as a client doctor kind of thing.
Unbelievable. It's a great day to get outside, and I think that qualifies, Paul, to get outside. But if you have not gotten outside, beautiful day. I know it's probably a little more still in the North County, but down here the wind seems to maybe have died down a little bit. Get out there, find somebody to go with you, get a little run on, get a little fitness. Make sure, guys, you can find us on livingtherun.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Well, we're excited about the show today. We're actually happy that Max was able to get us going. Great show today. I'm excited, Paul, because it's all about the sport you participated in. We've got a local guy, Chris Randolph. He participated in 2008 Olympic trials. He's going back in 2012. And then we've got your coach from up there in Oregon. He was your coach back in the day, and he was even help out with Dave Johnson, Dan O'Brien back in the 90s when the decathlon was really making a run again. So it should be a great show, great time talking living the run in track and field.
Yeah, it'll be a good time talking to Coach Mara. When he trained me, it was kind of like that was kind of him paying his dues, I think, when he had to put up with me every day. And then, when I retired and he moved on, obviously to way bigger, well, not much bigger, but way better things. Now he's rewarded with a great athlete. So, it'll be great to talk to him about that.
For those of you that never got to experience it, I went out and watched Paul work out a few times. It was 2007, 2008, before you got hurt there and busted up that knee, and you were thinking about going in 2008 again, make another run at those Olympics. Just absolutely chaotic a few times out there on the track. Yeah. Is that the best word to describe it between the relationship between you and Harry?
No, yeah, sometimes. No and yes. There were days, it was fluid and smooth and everything went according to plan, and then there were days that it just didn't. It started out low and got even worse. There's just the thing is he's got so much invested as a coach, and I've got so much invested as an athlete. And there's so much there's so much emotion involved in training because you got the carrot on the end of the stick isn't just this as I'm sure Randolph is going to jump in here and tell you soon enough. It's not just this. Oh well, if we make this team, great. If we don't, that's not a big deal. There's always next year. You got 4 years of training and hard work and commitment and dedication and sacrifice wrapped up into this, and then as soon as things start to go a little wrong, they go really wrong really quick, I guess, and emotions tend to come up.
One of the things that Coach Mara did, which was absolutely amazing, was he thought about the youth. It wasn't just about coaching these greats. Dan O'Brien, world record holder here in the United States in the outdoor events. Now Ashton Eaton, indoor world record holder. But he cared about the youth, and he cared about track and field. There was a time there, about 1976 to I believe about 1992, where U.S. track and field and the decathlon kind of fell off the map. And Harry, I know, was a pivotal part of getting kids back into it, establishing youth programs. And he did a great one here in Atascadero with the all-comers meets that we have in the summer. Just a tremendous opportunity for families to get out, kids to get out, and to start that kind of opportunity of living the run at an early age. To talk a little bit about your involvement in those and what it meant to you.
Well, the all-comer meets were actually after he had an initial project, like an earlier project, where he would go around and it was to the elementary schools. He had an after-school program where the kids would get in there. After school was done, they would get out there. And he had, all sorts of games. There'd always be 4 or 5 different games working on coordination, working on running mechanics, working on general fitness, working on core strength, just the basics of fitness. And these kids would get out there. That he would find a fun way to get them involved, get them doing it. And they would do this for, the entire fall semester, but the fall season and then spring season. And then when they were done with school in about June, these all-comer meets would start up. and he ran anywhere between 6 and 8 all-comer meets, and every Wednesday night in the summer. And these kids would come out and use what they've learned. Some of them have never seen a turbo jav, and it's just this little plastic javelin thing that they use. And these kids loved it. They would come out and, the object is throw it as far as you can. And there was lines of kids, like 100 kids long. It was incredible. So
yeah, and no kid too small either. Those meets are absolutely amazing. If your kid can walk, if they can kind of get themselves in motion.
Have you taken yours there?
I've taken mine. Mine was 18 months when he did his first. Actually, he was 12 months when he did his first track meet there.
If you can walk and or crawl in a specified direction, they have an event for you.
Yeah, they had the mini hurdles, and he proceeded to run right at them and run around them, which was really, really great. But no one's too small out there. And what Paul mentioned, the turbo jab, that has got to be one of the most fun events, to pick up a javelin that won't hurt your child if they get hit with it, and just a chance for them to throw. And what a great thing up there. So those are going to be starting up here real soon once the school year ends.
I believe it's every Wednesday in July this year is what I read on the schedule.
Yeah,
So Joseph's prepping, dude. He's getting himself ready to go. He's got a rigorous training program, and hopefully we see big things out of him.
Talk a little bit about, before we get to Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful in the decathlon competition, Olympic trials here in Eugene, 2012. What is that, the end of June? Talk a little bit about sponsorships, Paul. And I know that we're dealing with sponsorships here on Living the Run, and it's been a great thing. We've had a bunch of people start to jump in. Dr. Ryan Ross has jumped in. We've got Puma Aquatics. We've got Standard Process, Whole Food Nutrition. We got Brian Quigley, who's doing Peak Performance Massage. Very, very fantastic. Getting sponsorships, I know, is a tough thing in track and field. And although those of us who know athletes know that decathletes really arguably are the world's greatest athletes, no one can do more than they can do. Funding is not always there. It's a difficult deal. Talk a little bit about sponsorships, how they're raising money, and I know Harry was a big player in that as well, trying to get money to get out there so kids that really want to participate have a chance to participate, and even athletes at your level get to participate.
Well, I know, I believe it was back in the 90s, they had the Visa Decathlon team. They had Visa sponsored. It was a big team, had a budget that would allow, anywhere between 10 and 20 athletes to train. And it's not like it paid you a lot of money. It basically funded you so that you could pay the big thing that you want to pay as a decathlete. You don't think about a lot of things, but the thing is, you really you just want to cover your utilities. You want to cover the cost of living. I want to be able to eat food and a lot of food too. And a lot of, not even that sometimes. Sometimes minimal is good. You want to be able to turn the lights on and flush the toilet kind of thing. And it's hard, when you're training for a deck, because it's bare minimum. You're out there between 4 and 6 hours a day, bare minimum. I can't imagine a day that we were out there for less than 4 hours. By the time you get there, you warm up, you stretch, you cool down, you do your workout, that kind of stuff. And you're out there just trying to find. You have to beat the bushes. There's not a lot of people out there going, oh, let's give money to a decathlete, because it's really an obscure event here in the States. You go to Europe, there's 5,000-10,000 people at a meet. They know your name, they know your scores, they know your performance. You come back to the U.S., there's like 9 people, including your parents, sitting in the stands watching the championship. So there's a stark contrast between here and there, and it's hard to compete on the international stage when you're trying to do it at home with $800 or $1,000 a month as your only income.
I want to get to Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful, 2-time Division II national championship out of Seattle Pacific. He is in studio. Let's get to him next.
You're listening to Living the Run on ESPN Radio 1280 The Ticket.
Folks, when it comes to the health of my teeth, I will not compromise, and neither should you. It's time you go where my wife and I go. Go see Dr. Ryan Ross. I get it. Not everyone loves a dentist, and heck, even a few of you out there are scared to death of these offices. Bad past experiences? Well, you ever had a bad haircut? How about a bad meal somewhere? You didn't stop getting your haircut, and you certainly didn't stop eating, so stop ignoring your teeth. Dr. Ross's gentle approach, calming demeanor, and office full of upbeat staff put your dental fears to rest. Conveniently located in a great little house on Marsh Street downtown, Dr. Ross's office exudes the highest level of professionalism, mixed with an atmosphere much like your own home. Look, nobody's in a rush here. It's not a get 'em in, get 'em out atmosphere. Every time I'm in Dr. Ross's office, it's like I'm the only guy that matters. No distractions, just full focus on my oral health. If you're interested in the highest quality in dental care and want to walk out of the office every time with a smile, call Dr. Ryan Ross today, 541-5800.
We're back with Living the Run.
Back in studio with Olympic hopeful in decathlon, Chris Randolph, two-time national championship, Division II, out of Seattle Pacific University. Rando, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course. It's great to be back.
So the first question has to be, how much do you miss training with Paul Terek?
Wow. Yeah, that's a really tough question. Bring out the tough ones first.
Choose your words wisely, Rando. Choose your words wisely.
You know, I actually do. Paul Terek was actually a great training partner, albeit things were strange most of the time, and there were some really awkward moments. But when he was at the track, he was getting it done. And that's really all you can ask for. And we were great running partners. You know, we were really similar in that respect. And in events that I was better than him at, I could help him. And in events that he was better, he was really helping me. And so it's tough to find. You know, the decathlon is tough to find people who, you know, are that dedicated and out there with you, you know, all the time like he was. So,
talk to us about the difference in your approach. In 2008, you went to the Olympic trials up in Eugene. First time doing Olympic trials, and obviously a great experience to be able to be in that scenario. Didn't make the team. Coming back, took 4 years to train now for 2012. What's the difference in the approach this year in 2012 than it was in 2008?
Well, I feel like I just have a lot more experience now. You know, I had a pretty stellar college career, and then went into the trials with a lot of high hopes. But I was actually injured for most of that season and ended up doing basically 3 decathlons in a month's time. And so when I got to the trials, I was basically kind of burnt out trying to actually just qualify to get up to that point because of all those injuries. And now I feel like I'm in a much better position to put up a big score this year. You know, I've had a steady season of some good training, and we've been working on stuff that's really going to help me throughout the entire thing. And it's I feel really confident that I can have a personal best and post a high score. So,
talk about what you're doing here in these last couple weeks leading up. We're talking to Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful in the decathlon here on ESPN 1280, Living the Run. Again, follow us on livingtherun.com, guys, as well as Facebook and Twitter. You can find all this information, podcasts, and so forth. Talk about what you do here in these last couple weeks. Obviously, you've been putting in big training. You've done some meets to kind of just keep your feet wet and keeping that experience of actually doing meets. But what do you do in these last 2 weeks? How do you prepare? How does the training change? What do you do mentally maybe that's different going into those games in 2 weeks?
Well, this is definitely the funnest part of the season. I think Terek would say the same thing. When you get to these last few weeks before your big competition, you really are kind of taking it easy. You know, as a decathlete, like Terek says, you can train 4 hours, 6 hours a day. And when you're getting closer to your goal meet, you're really able to take a little bit of time and work on some major speed training, which is what has been the main focus for me for these past few weeks, is just making sure that I'm running hot on the track. We're actually doing some overspeed training, so we're getting pulled by a pulley to try to fire your neurological system a little faster than it has all season, and that's really what you try to work on towards the end. Is just trying to like really fine tune stuff. So making sure each event you're not spending too much time in any specific event, but really just kind of hitting what you want to do. Maybe you come out one day and you want to do one thing in high jump, and you go out and you do that one thing, and then you move on. And instead of spending a lot of time trying to tinker with things, you're ready and you just go for it.
One thing I thought was interesting when I read this in Runner's Magazine, there's a guy that competes along with you. I know you've been in many events with him, Ashton Eaton, another decathlete, and we're going to have Harry Mara, coach, Ashton's coach on the show here shortly. But one of the things that Coach Harry said was his philosophy as a decathlon coach is to become proficient in all 10 disciplines. It's not a 9-athlon or an 8-athlon. It's a decathlon. We train for all 10. That being said, you obviously can't be perfect in all 10. They're not all 10 going to be your best. Mm-hmm. As you're going into these trainings, and we talk, people on Living the Run all the time. There's times where things are a struggle, whether it's running a marathon, whether it's running an ultra marathon, whether it's your first 5K. There may be moments in the event where things start to become a struggle. And going into it, how do you take those events that aren't your best, but block that out and be able to take it to the next level and say, you know what? I may not be the best shot putter, but today it's going to be my best shot put ever. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a great outlook. Yeah, and that's really what you want. Is what I try to do, and I'm sure what Terek tried to do also, is you try to go into each event thinking, you start with 100 meters, and you say to yourself, today I am a 100-meter runner. That is my focus today. And you go and you run that 100 meters, and no matter how it went, it's done, and you kind of have to forget about it, and then you move on to the next event, long jump, and then today you're the best long jumper that you can be, and then you do it, and then you move on, and you just keep going. And for Terek, that was one of his. I feel like it was one of his greatest attributes. One was his kind of stupidity in a way, because. And it really is
Thank
because
you for that compliment. Well, I'm just kidding.
It really is because you were able to really have fun with everything, and so it didn't really matter if you did terrible. I mean, I've seen him down before, but he was really able to forget about it and move on, and it really was. It was a great attribute, and a lot of guys don't have that because they start going down, they just kind of keep snowballing down,
Are the decathlons as fun as they look? I mean, I remember going up there last time, and you guys look like you have a blast. I mean, there's just a whole ton of you up there bouncing around. It seems like guys are patting each other on the back. Goofy, looks like a bunch of goofy personalities. It doesn't seem like when you see like the 800 runners get together or the 400 guys or even the 100-meter guys, you don't seem to see that camaraderie. What do you think brings the camaraderie to the decathletes? Am I right in that?
Well, I think what you were seeing, Rex, is we were delusional at that point. I mean, there's 2 days out in the sun, and by that point, everybody's your best friend. It's like, hey, what's up, buddy? But no, you know what? That's the one thing I miss the most about that sport. Aside, people tend to look at track and field as an individual sport, and it is for the most part. You do know the guys you compete against, but in the decathlon, that's the one thing I miss the most. Is hanging out. Randolph and I could go head to head in every single event, and obviously we don't want the other person to do bad, but we want to beat them. Mm-hmm. But when the meet's over, and even when the meet's going on, we could be in the middle of a head-to-head battle, and if he says, Hey, Terek, can you grab my step in the pole vault? Yeah. I'll be more than happy to walk over and grab his step, and it might help him. It might help him make an adjustment that beats me. Or he might help me make an adjustment that puts up a better score. And it's a weird thing that other events they see it and they're like, that's just dumb. Why are you guys helping each other out? But you're out there so long. There is a brotherhood among the athletes. And especially not just the U.S. guys, even foreign guys. You go over and you compete 2 or 3 meets with them, and they're like your best friends. You guys will hang out after the meet's over and go out and get some dinner.
Well, yeah, and it's not really against the other individual too. It's against yourself because you're trying to better yourself to get more points for yourself. And so, I mean, in the end, the point totals add up, and you're going against everybody else. But during the event, it's basically everybody's trying to better themselves, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it absolutely fits so clearly what we're trying to do here on Living the Run is that team camaraderie, building other people up, and it's not just about the win, it's not just about the score or the time, but it's really about how you're competing. Well, real quick before we bring Coach Harry Mayer on, what are your expectations here in 2 weeks? What are your hopes, and what are we expected out of Chris Randolph?
Well, my ultimate goal is to definitely, to make the Olympic team. I mean, I think you have to go in with the biggest goal possible, and that's really my goal. And I do think it's doable. I have to compete at my best, and I've been training and have been preparing to compete at my best, and so that's what I'm expecting to do. I have a best decathlon of close to 8,100, and I feel like I can. That was actually 4 years ago when I did that score, and I feel like a lot of my stuff has really improved throughout these 4 years. And so, I expect to post up a big score, and I'm excited to compete. So.
Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful in the decathlon, local athlete. We'll hear more from him in minutes, but we've got Harry Mayer on the phone after the break. University of Oregon head coach of another decathlete, Ashton Eaton, former coach of In Studio, your co-host, Paul Terek. Back in moments.
You're listening to Living the Ride on ESPN Radio 1280 The Ticket.
Since 1929, Standard Process has been dedicated to providing the highest quality whole food supplements. Their philosophy is simple: to provide nutrients as they are found in nature. Today, scientists are finding more and more evidence demonstrating the benefits of whole food nutrients over high-dose synthetic vitamins. Standard Process's unique products are sold through healthcare professionals who are trained in using whole food nutrition as the first line of defense for the body. Visit www.standardprocess.com for more information or to find a Standard Process healthcare practitioner near you.
We're back with Living the Run.
We are back on Living the Run. Talking to Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful in the decathlon. Olympic trials here in 2 weeks up in Eugene, Oregon. I don't know if we heard earlier, but on Dan Patrick's show, we had Oregon golf coach Casey Martin was on there, but I think it was because Dan Patrick couldn't get the coach that we've got, Oregon Track Club elite coach Harry Mayer, former coach of Paul Terek. Harry, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I know Dan Patrick was trying to get you, but the phone was busy there, and so we got you.
I don't think so.
Maybe after the Olympics, Coach. Coach,
maybe. We'll see.
Coach, start us off. Tell us, how much do you miss coaching Paul Terek?
Oh, I miss him every single day.
Good and bad days, right?
You know what? They were all good days. We had a great time together. Paul did some outstanding things athletically. He also pitched some hurdles pretty far over the fence every once in a while. But all in all, it was a great ride.
I mean, Coach, you got to admit, the first day we met, I could maybe get the hurdle over the fence from the track. By the time I retired, my hurdle technique over the fence, throwing that thing, I was clearing it by 10, 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, and then your shot put got better too because of that.
Yeah, see, it all affected everything else. It was a good training event.
Coach, talk to us a little bit about the history of the decathlon. I know you've been around it as much as anybody. Runner's Magazine that just had you profiled in there with Ashton Eaton talked about you as the dean of the American Decathlon. We had great runs initially with the decathlon, then it kind of seemed to go away. Maybe 1976 to 90 seemed to lose that edge as Americans, and now that edge has kind of come back, starting with Dan O'Brien and moving forward, where we've had medals in every Olympics since. Talk about the history of it, what it's meant to you, what you've seen among these athletes over time, and where you see the decathlon today.
Well, starting right from today, it's at a good spot in many ways. I mean, you have Brian Clay, who's defending Olympic champion. You have Trey Hardy, who's two-time world champion, and now a young guy, Ashton Eaton, who is world indoor champion and heptathlon world record holder. So that's good. There's three guys right at the top, and then Miller Moss, Jake Arnold, and a number of others along the way coming up. Depth is important in the decathlon. You have to have numbers because, as Paul can well tell you, it's an injury looking for a place to happen. So heaven forbid, knock on wood, that these top three guys don't get hurt and do make the team going through the very intense trials. And, a guy like Chris Randolph could rise up on any one occasion and be right there on that team, which would be great.
Go ahead, Coach.
But historically speaking, America has done very well in the decathlon over the years at the Olympic Games. I can remember not personally, but historically remembering reading about Bob Mathias as a young kid in London, 1948, winning it as a high school kid, and then I think they swept it in 52 in Helsinki, and that's kind of what the ESPN and Runner's World and those people are talking about right now. There's a possibility of that, and if Clay, Hardy, and Eaton were ready and made the team, could they sweep it? It's possible, but the deal is this, and I think people have to realize this. More can go wrong during the course of the decathlon than can go right. So you have to deal with that chaos, and the people that deal with it usually are successful. So it'll be a struggle. It'll be tough. It'll be tough to do that.
What do you think with regards to the advertising? It's interesting you say more can go wrong in the decathlon than can go right. We're talking to Coach Harry Mara on ESPN Radio here, 1280, Living the Run. Are you talking what happened when they made that huge campaign back in the 90s on Dave Johnson, Dan O'Brien, and then Dave Johnson doesn't even make the team?
Dan didn't make the team.
Oh, sorry. Was Dan O'Brien didn't make the team?
Didn't make the team.
Dan didn't make the team.
Dan didn't.
Dave makes it. And now you have this huge campaign, and now we lose one of the guys. Do you think that there will be a big campaign for these three potential, or you think it's going to still lay low and more Americans are going to miss out on seeing the world's greatest athletes? I mean, we got Chris Randolph in here in studio, Paul Terek. You look at these guys and you watch what they can do. There's just nobody athletically that can do more than these guys can do, yet people aren't tuning into it. Are we going to be able to get some advertising to get people to start to tune in to just...
I think it's a very good question you ask, and I think the answer is this. I can't tell the future. Will we get more information on it and more bits out there and hits out there so the world and the United States becomes aware of what people like Randolph, Terek, Hardy, Eaton, and all those guys, Clay, can do? I'm not sure. The problem lies with the sport of track and field, and therein lies the problem. It is, pick up the page right now. Pick up the, maybe not San Luis Obispo paper, but pick up an average paper. You won't see anything on track and field in there.
Are we above average, Coach, or below average in that paper?
No, I think I would say, I haven't been there now in a few years, but I would say you're probably a little bit above average. I mean, even having a show like this down in San Luis, I don't know a lot of cities that have this kind of thing, and I think it's great. But we need more media hits out there. A young kid eating his cereal in the morning needs to flip through the sports page and see something on track and field. I'm 64. When I was a kid, I could find that. Now you find football, basketball, baseball, and if you find something on track, it's Joe Schmo got popped for drugs or something like that. It's negative stuff. So the sport needs to grow. We need a visionary in there that will take the sport to the next level, and then all of track and field will get hyped, and therefore the decathlon and high jump and whatever else will get hyped too. That's my take on it.
Well, I think the one thing to remember, Coach, about that, the debacle with Reebok back then, it wasn't a failure of track and field. It wasn't a failure of the athletes. Yes, Dan didn't make the team, but that's part of the event. The failure was I think and I don't want to say the ad campaign was a failure because that was a lucrative campaign for Reebok. They made a lot of money on that campaign.
Right.
But the failure was they promised something that wasn't guaranteed to the people. They started months in advance promising this matchup that was never guaranteed from the start. All they would have had to done was to focus on the trials and say these two guys are going to the Olympics. Could one of them be this? And promote it towards the trials. And then if that happens at the trials, then Dave, now Dave is their show horse and he moves on to the Olympics, and then they can reshift their focus. That was the only failure, but unfortunately it left a black eye on the whole sport because, like you said, people, they don't know anything about the sport. They don't know. They have the attention span that lasts 1/100 of a second shorter than the world record in the 100 meters. And if it's not broken, then they're already on to something else. And it's like, oh well, the decathlon failed, and they're terrible athletes, and they can't do this. Okay, moving on. Hey, what's next?
Well, that's a classic Paul Terek statement right there about the attention span.
It is.
Great.
It is. You know what's funny? It's like a game of chess. It really is. And you know what? Not to insult the entire American public, but how many people play chess seriously? You don't. It's not a thing that you learn growing up. You might learn it, but over in other countries, Harry, you've been to them with me. They all know how to play chess. Like everybody knows how to play these thinking man's games. And they all strategy involved. We play checkers here.
Well, here's a real good example. I mean, we're talking about the example where Dan, unfortunately, no-heighted in the pole vault down in New Orleans in the trials in '92. Last year in Eugene, Brian Clay unfortunately got hurt, so he had to pull out of the meet after the hurdles. And Ashton Eaton was having a very good meet. I happen to coach Ashton Eaton, but he was having a very good meet. And then his hurdles went well, and his discus went well, and he was warming up in the pole vault, did his warm-up, looked good, and he hadn't entered the competition yet. So I'm sitting there waiting for the bar to get, I think he came in at 15 feet or 14.9 or something. And I was sitting there, and the bar was at a lower height, and some lady said, "Coach, Ashton's having a very, very good meet. You look really uptight and really nervous." And I turned around and I said, "You're damn right I am." I said, "He hasn't vaulted yet, and you don't know what could happen. I mean, hopefully he's going to get over the bar," and he did. It wasn't a problem, but things like that, that's one of the issues with the decathlon I was thinking about earlier. Anything can happen. You can be on, and then all of a sudden, you just lost the feel for that event, and, Jenner did it in '75, just before the national championship, and lost that meet. So anything can happen.
Coach, I don't know if you remember, we're talking to Coach Harry Mara. He's the coach of Ashton Eaton, world record holder in the indoor, what is that, the indoor heptathlon, right? Indoor heptathlon, of course.
Randall, you got to educate Rex over there.
Here on ESPN 1280, Living the Run. And we got Chris Randolph, Olympic hopeful, as well in studio. I remember, Coach, 2008, Brian Clay was one high jump away from getting a goose egg in the high jump as well. He missed his first two heights there, and I remember the crowd all of a sudden had a gasp watching him on a third entry height, talking exactly what you've said, is more can go wrong, seemingly, in these events than it can go right. I take that to this. When you've got Ashton Eaton, who has already set a world record this year, going into the Olympic trials, is it make the team, or is it, best score? Go for the best score and put things together. Do you play these things safe? What's the advice that a coach gives in these types of events going forward?
Well, we have a three-pronged attack approach here, I guess you would say. Number one, obviously, the general conception is make the team. That's the bottom line. How do you do that? The second prong of attack is let's do in the competition on those 2 days at the trial exactly what we've been doing in practice each day. Albeit you might do it with a little bit more adrenaline, a little bit more gusto, a little bit more vigor, whatever. The third approach is, okay, they're good words, they're nice words, they're nice concepts. How does it work? So now, over the last month, as we lead into the trials, I'll say, Ashton, you warm up. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You warm up. When you're ready, you tell me. Okay, now we're starting the competition. Ashton Eaton up, first throw. Hardy just threw 50 feet. Clay just threw 52. Eaton, next thrower. And so I put him through a scenario as the trials will be, or a competition will be. And you work it out there. In the pole vault, for example, okay, Eaton up, first attempt, opening bar, 14 feet 9 inches, or 15-1, or whatever. And let's go, let's get over it. So we play that scenario, making sure the first long jump, the first shot put throw, the first high jump, whatever, is a make, so you get those bars underneath you, and then you can not relax, but you can start working from that point on. So that's our approach. Is it for a high score? When you look at a high score, Paul can tell you, you look at a high score after the javelin's over. You kind of look at the book and see where you're at and say, geez, I can go 8,400, so if I run this or whatever. That's the way we do it. We never, even when Ashton broke now, I think 3 world records in this heptathlon, we never once talked world record. We never once talked about any of that stuff until it came to the last event. I said, geez, you're in pretty good shape. If you run this, you could break the world record. So that's the way we approach it. Others might do it different and be as successful, but that works for us.
Let me ask Chris Randolph in studio. Chris, you taking a similar approach to this as you go into the trials?
Oh yeah, I mean, and me and Terek used to do that back when he was there. And Harry's right. You have to practice like you're going to compete in the competition, and you have to compete like you did in practice. And we would get those scenarios going similar to what he does with Ashton up there, where me and Terek would be throwing discus, and we would bet, a muffin or something on the next discus throw if you did better yourself.
That didn't help me. That didn't help me post training.
I
put some muffins on there.
Right, but
Chris,
in a way, it
bring
got
back
your
great memories with those muffins. I remember that. That was great.
right, and exactly. But in a way, that got your adrenaline going, just a little bit more focus in what you were trying to do at that practice, and that's what happens when you compete. You're trying to get that drive. So.
Well, I think that's what separates good and great is the ability to find that motivation, find that direction when you start the event, so that you're not going out on your first one and trying to have a PR in the long jump or a PR in the high jump or something. You're just going through the motions, doing things the way you know how to do them technically. Once you get over the bar and that pressure's gone, then you can start to open up the competition a little bit. But it's that, like I said, that's what's going to separate good guys from great guys.
Coach, before we go, give us a quick last minute. Give us a favorite Paul Terek story for the listeners.
Oh yeah, just probably a million. But just on this conversation we were just having in 2003. Yeah, 2003, just before the national championships. Paul was struggling big time with his long jump, huge struggling, and his discus was okay but not great. So he goes up to Stanford. He runs down the runway. He runs a good 100. Runs down the runway. 24. Was it 2.5, Paul?
Yeah, it's 7:38. I can remember.
Yeah,
7 meters 38.
24:38. Huge long jump, and what a big come through that was. He only had to take one jump and he was done, and he wasn't even jumping near that practice. The other thing in that meet is then now he's having a good meet. He runs some decent hurdles. Discus, foul, 150, wins the discus on his third attempt. That is clutch stuff that I think needs to be marketed, whether it's Paul Terek, Chris Randolph, or whoever it is. That's clutch stuff. That's stuff that goes unseen about the sport of the decathlon. And these guys are to be patted on the back because of that. They do a great job.
Clutch stuff indeed, and stuff that needs to be put out there, and we're trying to do that here on Living the Run. Coach Harry, so thankful that you came. I miss you over at the Atascadero Kennedy Gym. I miss seeing you there. But if we can get you again, we'd love to have you on. Just give us an update after the trials, and as we get closer to the Olympics, we'd love to talk to you again. So we hope we can get you back on the line.
Thanks, guys, and tell Terek and Randolph to. Chris, you got to stay healthy, so stay away from the moral rock surfing before the trials, huh?
No moral rock surfing for Randolph.
No.
Thanks, Coach.
See you guys.
We'll be back. Close out Living the Run, tips and takeaways in just a minute.
You're listening to Living the Run on ESPN Radio 1280 The Ticket.
Hey guys, Paul Terek from Living the Run here. As a former Olympian, there is only one place myself and fellow athletes go when it comes to chiropractic care on the Central Coast. With 4 chiropractors in the clinic, Slow Wellness Center is the largest, most comprehensive group of docs in San Luis Obispo County. I began seeing Dr. Rex Stevens back in 2005 for spinal adjustments to help maximize my performance, minimize my injury, and allow me to compete at my best. When the difference between a win and a loss can be just a fraction of an inch, perfect alignment in all joints is essential. One of the great things about the team at Slow Wellness is no matter where I had an issue, whether it was my spine, my foot, knee, wrist, or shoulder, they were always able to help. This team, made up of Dr. Rex and Molly Stevens, Dr. Sachs, and Dr. Bandolo, is sure to help you reach your health and fitness goals too. If it's chiropractic care you need, go where I go, Slow Wellness Center. Check them out at slowwellness.com or call 543-8688.
We're back with Living the Run.
Those of you just tuning in on this June 6th, National Running Day. National Running Day. I did get a run in today. It was treacherous. I had a 100-meter. Somebody told me that they thought this would be a good workout, and I'm going to have to
And you believe them.
This was get this, 100-meter dash followed by 10 pull-ups, followed by 100-meter dash, followed by 10 burpees.
How fast was the 100-meter dash?
No rest. 30 seconds rest after those 4, and you do 10 rounds of it.
How fast was the 100-meter dash?
Well, how fast was my 100-meter dash?
Well, I mean, what percentage of effort were you? I mean, were you all out sprinting?
No, especially at the beginning, but 80 to 90%. 80 to 90%.
So I'm sorry, I got to add this up again. 100-meter dash at almost, we'll say 90%.
Yep.
10 pull-ups.
10 pull-ups.
100-meter dash back.
10 burpees.
10 burpees. 30-second rest.
30-second rest. 10 rounds.
So really, you're going. Normally the 1-to-1 ratio is for aerobic, and then it's like I think it's like a 2-to-5 ratio or something like that for anaerobic. But you went. So you were probably working out for what, 4 minutes straight?
Yeah.
And you took 30 seconds rest.
Yeah.
Then you did
about
it again.
3 minutes. 3 minutes, and then 30 seconds rest. It got rough.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. When did the lactic acid kick in? About set 3?
Set 3 or 4.
Yeah,
set 3 or 4.
You're going to be rocked, man.
Yeah, I wanted to put that in for National Running Day, though. It was a good one. Hey, before we go, I want to hear Chris Randolph at the break said he wanted to chip in with his favorite Paul Terek story.
Oh, well, yeah.
He said none of them were radio appropriate.
Yeah, I think, what I said was that I have probably maybe 6 or 7 stories, but they just really aren't radio appropriate.
They're not family friendly.
So.
None of them appropriate. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you made it through that workout without throwing up, then you did better than Paul Terek. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
To be truthful, I have not thrown up in a running
Have you really?
running workout. I've come close. I've had the dry heaves a few times. Thank goodness I didn't eat before I went to practice.
Maybe that's what I saw was the
Paul
dry
Terek
heaves.
still enough daylight to try that workout.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Still enough daylight for all you Living the Run listeners to get a run in here. Let's get quickly tips and takeaways from today.
I would say my tip and takeaway is from Harry, how he talked about the decathlon, and Randolph too. They talked about being able to do something, whether it's good or bad. You move on to the next event. You can transfer that skill directly to life. Good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. You need to be able to move on. Plug through it, get on to the next thing, and approach that. If you carry the stresses and angers of one part of your day, it could ruin the rest of your day. You need to learn to forget those things and move on.
Rando, give us one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Terek on that, and also that you're going to practice like you're going to compete in the competition. I mean, for me, that's a big one is going out every day and making sure that I'm doing exactly what I want to do in the competition that's coming up in a couple weeks at the trials. And so, it's a great outlook, and you're going to win if you do it.
Absolutely. The one I'll take away, and we said this the other day, as John Wooden said, make each day your masterpiece. And it almost kind of sounds like when you get out and you participate in any event, make it your best for that day, and just give it the best on that day, and know that that's the best opportunity you had, and that's what you have to do coming up here in 2 weeks, going into this decathlon. You've got 10 events. You don't get too down by one event. You go forward. Those of you, let's look up Chris Randolph. He's an Olympic hopeful, local guy, fun guy, awesome stuff, awesome potential. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. Thank you to Harry Mara for joining us in studio. Next week on Living the Run, Sharon Day, Olympian in 2008. Live healthy, live bold, live the run.